They told you to attract what you want, to visualize harder, to manifest faster, to work on your vibration. But what if that's the very reason you're stuck? What if the more you try to attract, the more you push your desire away? Neville Goddard revealed a truth that most never grasp. You don't attract what you want. You reveal what you assume yourself to be. The difference changes everything. The moment you stop chasing and start being, the world bends to match your certainty. This isn't about forcing thoughts or repeating affirmations until you're exhausted. It's about slipping quietly into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, into the peace of it's already done. Because when you live from the end, you stop waiting for the miracle and start embodying it. So if you've been trying, striving, and hoping, this message will show you the shift that makes manifestation effortless. The shift from attraction to assumption, from wanting to being. And once you understand it, nothing in your life will look random again. There's a strange irony in how most people try to manifest their desires. They chase, visualize harder, repeat affirmations until exhaustion, and yet the thing seems to move further away. It's like running toward the horizon. The faster you go, the further it appears. That's the hidden trap of attraction. Every effort to get something silently declares, "I don't have it yet." Neville Goddard often said, even without uttering it directly, "Stop attracting." Neville Goddard never chased anything. He assumed he already was the one who had it. That's the essence of the law of assumption explained. The outer world can only echo your inner conviction. When you're constantly trying to pull something in, you're unknowingly pushing it away through the vibration of lack. It's like standing before a mirror demanding the reflection to smile first. Impossible. The reflection only responds. The law of assumption works the same way. Imagination creates reality, but not from wanting, from being. The wish-fulfilled state practice begins when you stop seeing your dream as something separate. You stop negotiating with it and start embodying it. Most people spend years learning techniques for manifestation without effort, Neville Goddard style, scripting, meditating, visualizing, but they overlook the simple truth. Effort itself is resistance. The more you try to make reality change, the more you reinforce that it hasn't. Desire by its nature implies absence, but assumption transforms absence into presence. Think about how love works. When you love someone, you don't constantly remind yourself, "I'm in love." You just are. You live it naturally. The same goes for wealth, peace, or freedom. The moment you try to attract them, you're treating them as strangers. Neville would remind us, the feeling is the secret, and feeling never begs, it simply knows. Trying to attract is like waiting for a sign before taking the first step. But when you assume, you walk as if the road already exists. The world rearranges itself around your conviction. You begin to notice on subtle shifts, coincidences, people showing up, but these are not proofs to chase. They're reflections of your inner certainty. Here's a practical example. Someone wanting financial abundance often repeats, "I'm attracting money," yet every repetition carries the vibration of, "I don't have it yet." But when that same person wakes up and feels wealthy, not pretending, but truly dwelling in gratitude as if the wish fulfilled, money begins to flow naturally, because the outer simply mirrors the inner. So the first shift is silence, the end of striving. You stop reaching, you start remembering. That version of you who already lives the life you desire isn't in the future. It's within you now, waiting for recognition. Attraction belongs to the world of time. Assumption lives in eternity, where everything already is. Every "I want" is a whisper of lack. Every "I am" is a declaration of creation. Neville's teaching wasn't about begging the universe. It was about realizing you are the universe expressing through imagination. The more you rest in that knowing, the less you'll crave proof. Life bends to the certainty of your inner world, and when that truth finally clicks, the chase ends. You stop standing outside your dream, knocking. You walk through the door, as if it had never been locked. That's when manifestation without effort, Neville Goddard talked about, becomes your natural state. But there's an even deeper secret hidden in this understanding, one that changes how you see yourself entirely. Neville Goddard often said it plainly. You never attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's the core of the law of assumption explained in living form, not theory. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror of your inner state. If within there is fear, the reflection will be confusion. If within there is certainty, the reflection will be order. Everything you experience is simply the projection of what you've assumed to be true about yourself. It's like waking from a dream and realizing every character was an expression of your own consciousness. Reality is the same stage, only in physical form. When someone truly understands that imagination creates reality, something shifts. The focus moves from "how do I get it?" to "who am I being now?" That's the transition that turns seekers into creators. Think of someone who constantly repeats, "Why does nothing ever work out for me?" They're not describing the world, they're describing the state they've accepted as real. The universe only echoes that vibration. It's impossible to experience abundance from the vibration of lack. It's impossible to live love while believing yourself unworthy. Life doesn't make mistakes. It simply mirrors. Neville never chased external evidence. He lived from within. For him, the law of assumption was a reminder that the outer is the last to change. First comes being, then having. First comes the state, then the form. When that truth sinks in, the fear of it not working dissolves completely. Imagine an actor so deeply immersed in a role that he forgets who he is off stage. That's the essence of the wish-fulfilled state practice. You don't try to believe, you embody. You move, speak, think, and feel as the one who has already lived the happy ending. The audience, your reality, simply follows the performance you commit to. Manifestation without effort, Neville Goddard style, happens when the inner self aligns. There's no struggle, only coherence. Life begins to rearrange itself around that new identity. People appear, paths open, synchronicities unfold. It's not magic, it's reflection. It's the universe saying, "Now you've recognized yourself." The feeling is the secret, because feeling precedes seeing. Seeing is only the result of feeling. The logical mind, trained to control outcomes, resists this simplicity, but those who dare to test it find that when the inner state changes, the outer world shifts naturally, effortlessly, like a wave following its rhythm. The common mistake is believing thought alone creates, but it's feeling that anchors creation. Thinking I'm prosperous without feeling prosperity is like planting a seed in dry soil. The water that makes it grow is emotion, the lived sensation of already having it. That's why Neville repeated, "Feeling is the secret." Words alone don't manifest, embodiment does. The law of assumption isn't about control, it's about authorship. The world isn't against you, it's showing you where you're vibrating. Every event, every delay, every person is a gentle mirror whispering, "See who you're being." Once you grasp that, power shifts back to its rightful place, inside you. From that moment, you stop reacting and start creating. Life ceases to be a fight for results and becomes a dance between states of consciousness. And when you truly see this, something awakens within, the realization that to change the world, you only need to change the eye who observes it. That's where real power begins to rise, quietly, from the inside out. Most people start their manifestation journey armed with endless techniques, scripting, visualization, affirmations, subliminals. They treat them like tools to pull the desired thing closer, but the harder they work, the further it seems to drift. Because every technique done with the mindset of getting silently declares, "I don't yet have." That's the trap Neville Goddard warned about, the subtle separation created by effort. Neville never used the law of assumption as a checklist. For him, everything began and ended in being. The state of consciousness you occupy is the only cause. If you feel like someone who's still trying to manifest, you'll manifest endless trying. But when you assume you are already the one who has it, you enter the vibration of completion, and reality has no choice but to follow. It's like trying to pull your reflection closer in a mirror. Impossible. You can only change the image by shifting who you are being. That's what imagination creates reality truly means. The scene you hold in your inner world becomes the command to the outer one. So the real question isn't "what should I do, mate?" but "who am I being right now?" Techniques can be powerful, but only when used as expressions of the state, not tools to achieve it. Writing an affirmation from the energy of gratitude is creation. Writing it from frustration is resistance. The same words, different worlds. Neville understood that. It's never the technique, it's the feeling behind it. Imagine someone trying to manifest love while feeling lonely. Every time they visualize, they reinforce the absence of what they want. But if they instead become the version of themselves who is already loved, relaxed, open, fulfilled, their vibration naturally draws harmony. The wish-fulfilled state practice is not about pretending, it's about remembering. Manifestation without effort, Neville Goddard style, happens when you act from identity, not intention. The person who is wealthy doesn't visualize wealth to get it. They move, spend, and think as if abundance is their baseline. That inner confidence subtly rearranges everything around them. It's not effort, it's alignment. That's why Neville's most profound statement, "Feeling is the secret," is so often misunderstood. Feeling isn't a temporary emotion, it's the state you live from. You can't fake being fulfilled. You either are or you're trying, and the world knows the difference. Your assumption vibrates louder than any affirmation. When you embody the version of yourself who already lives the result, you no longer measure progress. You stop checking if it's working. The mirror always catches up, but only after you've stopped asking when. That surrender isn't passivity, it's faith in motion. You're no longer trying to attract, you're simply being magnetic. Every technique done with tension is a confession of doubt, but every action done from certainty is creation in motion. Neville's life itself was a demonstration of that. His stories weren't about what he did, but who he became. The world bent to his assumptions because he never tried to make it happen. He just knew it already had. So the real mastery lies not in collecting new techniques, but in deepening your identity. The techniques were never the point. They were mirrors of your state. When you stop chasing tools and start embodying truth, manifestation becomes effortless. And that's where the next step begins, the moment you stop waiting and finally become the cause. Something powerful happens the moment you stop waiting for your desire to appear. The energy shifts. Waiting always implies separation, a timeline between you and the thing you want. But assumption collapses that distance. When you assume, you move from being a spectator of life to being its author. You stop asking when will it happen, and start knowing it already has. Neville Goddard taught that life doesn't respond to desire, it responds to identity. The outer world has no choice but to follow your inner conviction. Once you assume the wish fulfilled, you step into cause, not effect. You stop chasing signs, synchronicities, and proof. You become the proof. Your stillness becomes louder than any effort. Think about a magnet. It doesn't run after metal. It simply is magnetic. Its very nature draws things to it. That's the law of assumption explained through nature itself. When you are the state of love, success, or peace, what belongs to that state naturally finds you. You don't attract it, you express it. Most people live in constant waiting mode, waiting for results, validation, opportunities. But waiting is just another disguise for doubt. To assume is to declare the end as present now. It's to live as if the movie has already ended well. Neville would say, live in the end, not imagine the end and live it. Feel its calm. Walk from it, not toward it. The moment you do, life bends in subtle, miraculous ways. You start noticing how events align perfectly, but not because you forced them. They move toward you because your vibration shifted. Manifestation without effort. Neville Goddard's style is not about making things happen. It's about letting what's already yours reveal itself in form. The feeling is the secret because feeling is the language of creation. You can't fake being something. You either are or you're not. And when you are, everything rearranges itself effortlessly. That's why Neville often reminded his students, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in it. That persistence is not effort, it's faith sustained. When you become the cause, you no longer look around for evidence. You look within for confirmation. Every external delay loses its power because you understand. The seed has already been planted. You're not waiting for the harvest. You're living as though it's already grown. The world simply adjusts its timing to yours. Imagine two people praying. One prays to get something. The other prays from gratitude, knowing it's already done. Both use the same words, but only one vibrates with truth. That's the difference between a seeker and a magnet. The seeker hopes, the magnet knows. Becoming the magnet doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing from fullness, not from need. It means speaking, acting, and creating from a place where lack no longer exists. Life feels lighter. The urgency fades. You move through the world as someone who's already home. That's when things start arriving faster, not because you chased them, but because you finally stopped running. And from that state of being, something profound begins to happen. A quiet confidence, a deep inner rest. You realize you were never meant to wait for blessings to come. You were meant to become the source from which they flow. And once that truth settles in, you naturally begin to practice it. Eyes closed, heart open, imagining the world as already fulfilled. Close your eyes for a moment. Let everything around you fade. The noise, the thoughts, the wanting. Picture one simple, ordinary scene that would be true if your desire were already real. Maybe it's a friend congratulating you, a notification on your phone, or just the feeling of waking up in peace. Simplicity is key. The subconscious doesn't need drama. It only needs clarity. Neville Goddard called this living from the end. You're not forcing the scene, you're entering it. You're stepping into that inner movie and feeling the wish fulfilled. The goal isn't to make the image perfect, it's to make the emotion real. That quiet sense of, it's done. That's the secret vibration, where manifestation without effort truly begins. Don't imagine to attract, imagine to remember. The state already exists within you. When you enter it in imagination, you bridge timelines. You're no longer the one trying to create, you're the one acknowledging creation. The law of assumption explained simply as this: assume you are, and reality must comply. Here's the beauty of it. It takes less than a minute. One inner scene repeated with genuine feeling does more than hours of forced visualization. Feeling is the secret because it bypasses logic. When you feel relief, joy, or gratitude, your subconscious accepts it as fact. You stop telling life what you want and start telling it who you are. Imagine someone wanting to heal a relationship. Instead of rehearsing conversations, they simply imagine the warmth of reconciliation, the sound of laughter, the peace in the air. That feeling becomes the seed. Days later, they receive a message, an apology, or a chance encounter, but nothing was chance. It was reflection. Neville's students practiced this nightly. Before sleep, they would enter the state akin to sleep, where the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious opens. In that drowsy state, one scene felt as true becomes law. Imagination creates reality. Not tomorrow, but the moment you feel it done. Don't complicate it with perfectionism. You don't need to see every detail. You just need to feel the atmosphere of the fulfilled wish. If it's wealth, feel the calm confidence. If it's love, feel the warmth of being chosen. If it's peace, feel the quiet expansion of your breath. The feeling is the language of the infinite. Most people imagine the desire itself, the car, the money, the partner, but Neville urged us to imagine the result of the result, the natural, mundane proof that life already changed. Not the wedding, the ring on your hand, not the money, the paid receipt. That small difference changes everything. The more real it feels, the more natural it becomes. Soon, you'll find yourself smiling for no reason, acting differently, thinking differently. That's embodiment. You're no longer reaching for the future, you're living from it. That's the true wish-fulfilled state practice. It's gentle, quiet, and profoundly powerful. And when you open your eyes again, something subtle has shifted. The world looks the same, yet it feels new, softer, more responsive, because you've aligned with the cause, not the effect. You've remembered your creative power, and from that recognition, gratitude begins to arise. The peaceful knowing that creation is already complete. The difference between pretending and creating lies in one thing: feeling. Neville Goddard said it clearly: feeling is the secret. Thought alone is powerless without the emotional conviction that gives it life. You can repeat affirmations for hours, but until you feel them as true, they remain empty words echoing in the mind. Feeling is what seals the assumption into reality. Gratitude is not just a virtue, it's a frequency. When you feel grateful, you declare to life, "I already have." And that vibration is magnetic. It doesn't chase, it attracts effortlessly. Manifestation without effort. Neville Goddard style begins the moment you stop begging the universe and start thanking it. Gratitude is the energy of completion. Peace works the same way. Many people think peace comes after things work out, but Neville flipped that logic. Peace creates the outcome. When you rest in inner calm, you're telling your subconscious, it's done. And the subconscious, being faithful and literal, delivers that reality. The law of assumption explained simply: your inner state commands your world. Imagine someone visualizing money with anxiety in their chest. Every effort screams, "I don't have it yet." But another person, with a quiet heart and steady gratitude, imagines the same scene and feels relief. Guess which one manifests? The universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibration. Feeling is the bridge between thought and form. Gratitude and peace are not reactions, they are creators. That's why Neville taught to feel before seeing, because once you feel it, the outer must align. Think of a magnet again. Its stillness is its strength. It doesn't need to move to attract. It simply is. Your peace is that magnetic stillness. Here's a small practice. Before bed, take one deep breath and think, "It's already mine," not as a statement of hope, but of knowing. Let gratitude fill your chest, not for what's coming, but for what already exists within your assumption. This simple act recalibrates your entire vibration. When you live in gratitude, lack becomes impossible. You stop noticing what's missing because you're too busy experiencing fullness. That's why the feeling of fulfillment precedes the evidence. The world cannot resist the vibration of one who is content. That's what it means to assume you are. Peace doesn't mean passivity. It means trust. It's the quiet faith that doesn't need to see to believe. Neville called this persistence in the assumption. You hold your inner state as truth no matter what appears outside. Gratitude keeps it alive, and peace keeps it stable. Together, they form your true magnetic field. Effort comes from fear. Feeling comes from faith. When you catch yourself trying, pause and breathe. Replace striving with stillness. Replace longing with gratitude. Replace worry with peace. These subtle shifts are the real secret to manifestation without effort. And soon you'll notice something beautiful. Life begins to move around you in harmony. What once required force now flows with ease, because gratitude and peace have become your new normal, the language your reality understands. And from that stillness, you'll start to see the world bend gently toward you. There's always a moment between the assumption and its reflection, that silent space where nothing seems to happen. Most people lose faith there. They start doubting, analyzing, trying again. But that's precisely when persistence matters most. Neville Goddard would say, "Remain faithful to your assumption, because if you waver, you return to the old state." This gap isn't punishment, it's gestation. The outer world is still rearranging itself to match your new identity. Seeds take time to sprout, even though the moment they were planted, creation was complete. When you understand that, you stop digging up your manifestations to check if they've grown. You rest, you trust, you persist. The mind loves evidence, but faith lives without it. Persistence doesn't mean forcing belief. It means resting in knowing. You don't replant a seed every day, you water it with confidence. When you say, "I am the state from which all things flow," you remind yourself that the power was never outside. You are the source. Imagine a sculptor carving a statue. Between strikes, the marble looks unchanged, but the form is emerging. The same happens in consciousness. Every time you persist in your new assumption, even without visible proof, you're shaping reality. The law of assumption explained through patience. Hold the image until the form must appear. This is where most give up. They mistake delay for denial. But in truth, the reflection simply hasn't caught up. Neville called this the bridge of incidents. Life begins to move in ways the logical mind can't predict. People, events, and coincidences start aligning behind the scenes. The only requirement? Don't interfere. Manifestation without effort. Neville Goddard's style means standing still in your faith. You don't push the river, you trust its flow. Each time doubt whispers, "It's not working," you gently return to the feeling of completion. That single act, returning to knowing, is creation in its purest form. When fear arises, remind yourself, feelings don't change truth. The truth is the state you've assumed. If you've entered the wish fulfilled, it's already done. Temporary emotions can't undo eternal identity. That's why Neville emphasized feeling as the foundation, not as the reaction. Persistence isn't stubbornness, it's alignment. It's walking through the illusion of lack without bowing to it. When circumstances shout no, you smile inwardly, knowing the yes already exists in unseen form. Reality always submits to the most consistent assumption. Always. Think of a radio. If you've tuned into a frequency, the song is already playing, even if there's static at first. You don't question the signal, you adjust your focus. The same applies to the wish-fulfilled state practice. When you stay tuned, the music of your desire becomes audible. And then, something extraordinary happens. Peace replaces urgency. You stop measuring time because you live beyond it. You realize the outer world is just a slow echo of your inner conviction. And once that's understood, persistence becomes effortless. Not striving, but knowing. And that knowing soon begins to show signs that the shift has already taken root. At first, the change feels subtle, almost invisible. You wake up one morning and realize you're not obsessing over your desire anymore. The craving, the pressure, the constant mental noise, it's just gone. What replaces it is peace. That's the first sign you've shifted. You no longer need proof. You feel calm ownership even if nothing outside has moved yet. Neville Goddard called this living from the end. The end doesn't need validation. It just is. When you begin to embody your new state, urgency disappears because you no longer perceive lack. The law of assumption explained through experience. Once you are the thing, you stop reaching for it. You don't need to chase what's already yours. Then the synchronicities begin. You start noticing repeating numbers, meaningful coincidences, unexpected messages, or people who mirror your new belief. It's not random, it's reflection. These are gentle confirmations that the vibration has shifted. Life is whispering, yes, this is your new normal. You might also feel emotionally lighter. The heavy sense of resistance fades. Even challenges that once triggered you seem easier to handle. That's because the wish-fulfilled state practice changes your entire energetic baseline. You've moved from reaction to creation, from hoping to being. Sometimes physical signs appear too. Your posture changes, your tone softens, your habits evolve. You start doing things the future you would do, not because you're forcing it, but because it feels natural now. That's the beauty of manifestation without effort, Neville Goddard style. It becomes your default, not your project. Another subtle clue is the feeling of gratitude without a reason. You find yourself smiling in traffic, thankful for nothing in particular. That's not delusion, it's alignment. Gratitude is how your soul recognizes truth. It knows the world is already rearranging itself. The peace you feel is the echo of creation already complete. You'll also notice the urge to talk less about manifesting. You simply live it. You stop asking others how to make it work, because you know. The conversation shifts from how to get to how to sustain. That's mastery. You've entered the quiet confidence of someone who's found the source within. The outer world may still look the same for a while, but it feels different. That's how you know reality is in motion. Neville often said, the world is yourself pushed out. So when your inner tone changes, your environment must eventually mirror it. You're no longer waiting for proof. You're watching the reflection catch up. Early signs also include moments of déjà vu or time distortion. Days feeling faster, events aligning too perfectly to ignore. The universe starts speaking your language, matching your frequency. You realize it's not about signs anymore. It's about resonance. And from that quiet recognition, you begin to relax deeply into the truth of who you are. The chase ends, replaced by a steady hum of assurance. You've stopped attracting and started assuming. And as that calm confidence deepens, you no longer need evidence. Because the assumption itself feels so natural, it's impossible to doubt. There comes a point when your assumption no longer feels like a practice. It feels like you. That's deep embodiment. The wish-fulfilled state is no longer something you visit in imagination. It's the air you breathe. You don't wake up asking if it's working anymore. You simply live as though it's always been this way. The line between manifesting and being disappears. Neville Goddard described this beautifully. You will know when you've succeeded, when it feels natural. Natural doesn't mean excitement or constant euphoria. It means ease. It means your new reality feels so obvious, so ordinary, that you forget it was once a desire. The extraordinary becomes normal. That's the true magic of assumption. When you reach that level of embodiment, you stop talking about manifestation. You just live it. The law of assumption explained simply, once your inner identity shifts, outer reality must conform. You don't push, persuade, or manipulate. You let life echo your conviction. Manifestation without effort. Neville Goddard's style becomes the rhythm of your being. At this stage, seeking evidence feels unnecessary, almost silly. You know how a mirror works. You don't stand before it and beg for reflection. You trust it to respond instantly. Reality is that mirror. The moment you embody a new state, the world reflects accordingly. The delay is not proof of absence, it's proof of stability being built. Embodiment also means emotional neutrality. You're not riding the highs of hope or the lows of doubt. You rest in a calm, unwavering knowing. The feeling is the secret, not the feeling of excitement, but of certainty. That quiet, of course, vibration that says, this is who I am now. That's when your assumption solidifies into truth. You might notice people treating you differently, not because they've changed, but because you have. The energy you carry now demands a new response from the world. The opportunities, conversations, and outcomes align to your new identity. That's the power of being the cause, not the effect. Deep embodiment feels effortless because it no longer relies on daily techniques. You don't need to remind yourself to believe. Belief has become being. It's the same way you don't affirm I have a body. You simply exist. That's how your new assumption operates. Automatic, unconscious, consistent. Neville often compared this stage to falling asleep in a new assumption. Once it feels natural, the subconscious takes over. You no longer interfere, you don't monitor progress, you simply live. And ironically, that's when things begin to manifest faster, because you've released resistance completely. True embodiment is freedom. You stop fearing loss because you understand you are the source. The desire no longer owns you. You own the state that creates it. That's what it means to assume you are. Every breath, every step, every word reflects fulfillment. And when you reach this point, something even deeper awakens. A realization that there's no process anymore. There's only awareness choosing new experiences. And from that awareness, you see the final truth Neville always pointed to. Stop trying to attract. Start being. Because once you fully become, the world has no choice but to follow. Everything changes when you stop trying to attract. Trying is effort. Assuming is power. Attraction says, it's out there. Assumption says, it's within me. Neville Goddard's entire teaching rests on this shift. The moment you assume you are, creation responds instantly. Because life isn't listening to your words, it's responding to your state of being. Trying to attract is like standing outside your dream, knocking on the door. Assuming is realizing you were always inside. It's the awareness that imagination creates reality. And imagination isn't fantasy. It's the blueprint of the unseen world. When you occupy a state with conviction, the world has no choice but to conform. Stop seeking signs that your manifestation is close. The one who knows doesn't wait for confirmation. They live as the cause, not the effect. Manifestation without effort. Neville Goddard style means moving through life with quiet confidence, not because you're hoping it will work, but because you know it already has. The law of assumption explained in its purest form is this. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see is a shadow cast by who you believe yourself to be. When you change your self-concept, the entire world rearranges. You don't have to chase opportunities. They orbit naturally around the frequency of your new identity. The feeling is the secret, because it bridges the invisible and the visible. When you feel fulfillment now, you collapse the illusion of waiting. The future becomes the present and the present becomes the past. Everything flows from the assumption that it is done, and in that knowing, effort dissolves. People often think assumption means arrogance. It's the opposite. It's humility before divine law. It's the quiet realization that you and creation are one. When you assume, you honor that unity. You stop begging the universe and start expressing its power through you. That's when miracles appear ordinary. Assuming you are isn't pretending. It's remembering. The truth is, you've never been separate from what you desire, only unaware of it. The version of you who already has it exists now, waiting to be occupied. When you step into that identity, everything rearranges, effortlessly, precisely, inevitably. The one who assumes doesn't hustle, compete, or prove. They radiate. There's a grounded peace about them, the kind that makes people wonder, how do they always get what they want? It's not luck, it's law. Life cannot resist the vibration of completion. Every great creator reaches this understanding. You don't manifest by force, you manifest by nature. You simply allow your true state to express itself. Neville's words echo through time. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption. It will harden into fact. And once you taste this truth, you never return to chasing again. You stop asking when and start living as if now. Because once you know it's done, time bends around you. Reality follows your certainty. You become the magnet, not the seeker, the living embodiment of your own fulfilled word. You've just learned that the secret was never about attracting. It was about assuming. Life doesn't hand things to those who wait. It mirrors those who know. So ask yourself now, what version of you have you been assuming today? The one who's still waiting, or the one who already lives the wish fulfilled? Take this teaching beyond theory. Tonight, before you sleep, enter that inner scene. Simple, real, complete. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet certainty that Neville Goddard spoke of. Let that feeling carry you. Tomorrow the world will respond differently, not because it changed, but because you did. Stop chasing signs. Be the sign. The magnet doesn't move. It attracts by nature. You are that magnet the moment you decide to become. If this message awakened something in you, if it reminded you of who you truly are, then don't let it fade. Subscribe Turn on notifications and keep walking this path of awareness, because once you begin living from the end, every new video will help you remember you were never trying to attract, you were always meant to be.